Yo, 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 yo! What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads out there? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
I'm doing great. I am.
That's good. Positivity. Think
That's
highly.
right.
Highly. Think highly.
I'm ready to get high.
We are gonna get high. I've been high though. I just did the video or reel about the Cannabis Cup, and we are doing the High Times Cannabis Cup this year. And we got invited, as we said on the prior episode, and we're super stoked. I'm on day 3, and I'm calling it a challenge because it's fun. I got to challenge myself, and I'm on day 3 of smoking. I've smoked 3 different strains so far, and I've smoked New Era Lilac Cookies. I've smoked Verano Guru Zero. And now we're going to smoke, and I have smoked earlier when I did the video, Punch Breath by Bedford Grow. And so far, this one has been really good high. The Verano was a good high, and the New Era was a decent high. So far, my favorite. I haven't rated it yet because we're going to smoke more during the show. So we are smoking Bedford Grow's pure deliciousness of Punch Breath. And Mrs. Weedman's going to smoke it.
Yeah, but first I'm doing the...
Oh, that's right. You are doing
I'm
it.
a judge also.
Yes, you are.
And this is the People's Choice Cannabis Cup. And so anyone can partake like we talked about. And if you pick up a kit and get yourself registered, you can be a judge as well. I was going to do joints, but we went to a medical dispensary because we have medical cards. And there were there's no joint kit for that for the medical category. So I ended up with vapes and cartridges. And so far I've only smoked one.
But you had some fun with yours.
Yes, I wanted to smoke it for a number of times to really get a better understanding of the product before I judged it. So Mr. Weedman's taking it a day-by-day approach, and I'm taking it like we've got 60 days to report, and I only have 7 products.
Actually, we have less than 60 days. September 4th, I read that the voting has to be in.
No, 24th.
24th. Oh, gotcha.
We have time. So I only have 7 different products that I have to judge. So I'm going to use them for a number of days before I report on them so I can really get a good feel for each product. So when you go in to do your judging, there's a series of questions. So some of it is you're ranking it on a 0 to 10 scale and then defining why you ranked it there. So you do have to get into some discussion about how you feel about the product. So I wanted to know a little bit more. So far I have tried, it was from Bebo, and it's called their Inspired Blend, and it was a super cute little vape pen. Of course, way too much packaging, but they're not judging on packaging. They are judging on the looks, the aesthetic of the actual pen or device. It's super cute. I guess that's a bonus if you care about that. But it's a blend, so it doesn't have a very specific profile because it is a blend. It's not an indica sativa, but it is definitely energetic.
Yes.
My niece is a big fan of the band
Greta Van Fleet.
Fleet. And they were playing about 3 hours south of where we live, and so it turned into a little field trip. Me and my sister and my niece went down, stayed overnight, and went to this concert. And my niece is a young adult, and she partakes in cannabis. My sister heavily partakes in cannabis, so we were smoking quite a bit. We had some good times with it. It was a pleasant smoke.
The box is it is a lot of packaging, but the box is fairly cool looking.
It's a nice looking box.
And all the little
what do you do with the stuff?
puns on there
it just
and
fills
stuff like that.
a landfill. It's a box. I don't need it once I get the product out of it.
Right.
And we're going to get into an article about that later in the show, packaging and all of the excess waste of cannabis packaging. But I'm going to smoke.
You're going to smoke. So we're smoking by Bedford Grow, Punch Breath, and it's an indica dominant hybrid. It's a 70-30 indica sativa style plant, and this one we're smoking is 21.26% cannabinoids. And it was created by crossing the classic Mendo Breath and Purple Punch, which I like Purple Punch a lot. If you're looking for a full-body high with great flavor, you found it. Punch Breath brings it on. The high comes on fast and hard, smashing into both mind and body with an almost frenzied, tingly effect. I have to say, I did the video, I did our reel, and then I took Yuki for a long walk, and I was high, but I was able to this didn't put me where I wanted to lay on the couch. Just gave me a nice mental clarity high. good body feeling. I mean, my just really good walk, and I was actually really intently training Yuki on this walk, so I really got into it. So it was great. As we said, you'll feel your spirits lift and soar, muscles relax, and you settle further into the couch. I didn't fall into the couch. This tingly quickly turns calming, leaving you slightly sedated and out of touch as you fall further and further into a blissful happiness.
Oh, I need that.
Mrs. Weedman took a
I took a whole bunch. I've decided my tolerance level has increased, so I just hit the bowl like 4 times.
Punch breath is often chosen to treat conditions such as chronic pain, nausea, appetite loss, chronic stress, depression, insomnia, and cramps or muscle spasms. This bud has a sweet and fruity grape candy flavor with hints of fresh bubblegum throughout. The aroma is just as delicious with an earthy overtone that's accented by fresh sweet berries and tangy bubblegum. Punch breath buds have super dense grape-shaped minty green nugs with lots of orange furry thin hairs and sparkling coating of thin frosty crystal tripe. That is to the T, because I showed the nug on
it smells like candy.
It's very, very good.
It's very pretty.
The effects are body high, calming, cerebral, happy, relaxing, sociable, uplifting. Symptoms relieving chronic pain, depression, insomnia, nausea, and stress. Flavors is berry, candy, fruity, grape, and sweet. And the aromas are blueberry, fruity, nutty, and sweet. And I have to agree with a lot of that description on it because I smoked it earlier, and the nugs. It was a small nug, but it was a very pretty nug. And when I smoked it, man, I'm like, this is going to be a good, solid smoke. It is really good. If you can find it at any dispensary, I highly suggest you find this from Bedford Grow Punch Breath. And Mrs. Weedman, I'm going to hit this bowl again while you say something.
Yeah. It tastes just as said. It's sweet and not super earthy. But the smell is insanely pungent. It's so fruity. Yeah. It smells like candy.
It smells like juji fruit.
Oh, it's a tight little bud.
Yeah, nice bud. It was firm, but a little fluff. You know, got a little give.
And it smoked quite well. Like I said, I hit the bowl a few extra times. We'll see where this takes me.
Yeah, I'm gonna rate this one after the show. So, but it's so far of the 3, it's been my fave. Bedford Grow, nice job. I haven't smoked a Bedford Grow strain in quite a while because Mrs. Weedman put their whole cultivation on the do not smoke list. Remember, it was the Mad Dog Breath or something we smoked. I smoked one time and it made me nuts.
Oh, and you got way too wound up. So it was no Bedford. Oh, I did say that. Yes, I did. That was Bedford Grow.
That was Bedford Grow.
That was back in the days when
we had the Wall of Fame.
Paul was home.
Yeah, Paulie was home.
And they would just come in the basement and game and smoke weed. I mean, they had responsibilities too, but in their free time, right? They would just have a good old time. And we had like a whole ledge across like a 10-foot wall in our basement that was just kind of like the beer can pyramid, right? Of just cannabis packaging.
Oh, yeah.
And then we at some point stopped and looked at it like, wait a minute, we've got a lot of Bedford Grow.
Yeah.
And so it was a big player for you guys.
Yeah, in the beginning.
Yeah.
Until you put that on the do not smoke list.
That one. It was like, no more. And early on, God, how many years ago we met?
2018.
We met with somebody from Bedford Grow to talk about. It was before edibles were allowed in Illinois, and dispensaries weren't even open yet.
No.
And it was like the startup.
It was medical. It was small. It was like
yeah. And we met with somebody to talk about making edibles with that dispensary. I don't even know whatever happened with that.
Me neither. They're doing great though.
Yeah.
I mean, their edible game is pretty good, but their flower game. I think they came in first last year too, if I can remember right, for one of their strains. I can't remember though, so I'm too baked now. But good stuff, everybody. So we are watching nothing right now. Oh, we are. We just started a new show, but all of our shows are done. And we started Westworld because people have been telling us for years to watch it, and we watched the first episode. I don't know what happened, so because we both remembered the first episode. So now we're on episode 2 for season 1. But if anybody's got any shows you could recommend right now, I mean, there's nothing to watch right now. I think all the seasons are over with.
Yeah, we're in.
Or all of our shows are over too, like for good.
I think that there's a lot of shows that we could find. We just have to go scrambling through.
Yeah, I know. But someone give us a tip.
Give us some hints.
Mrs. Weedman, you ready to start the show?
I'm ready.
You're back too. I feel it. I feel the energy.
I'm back. I was in a little bit of a mood before we got started. I think I'm adjusted.
You're adjusted.
I'm adjusted.
Crick. You're good.
Burp.
You ever wonder how to like rehydrate your bud if if you still keep it in a baggie and it's been in the sun? We talked about that in a prior episode, or you like left it out, so rehydrating your cannabis. There is some useful tips to do this. For optimal experience, cannabis flower should have a certain level of moisture as it affects the potency, aroma, flavor, and overall health of the buds. When buds become too moist, they develop mold, which can be harmful to one's health. However, if it's too dry, it will lack potency and flavor and will burn too quickly. Consumers should keep ideal humidity levels to prevent these problems and give their buds the flavor and effects they want. Sometimes, even if you're doing everything right to maintain proper moisture level, you may find yourself with dry cannabis. In this case, try a few methods to rehydrate your stash. 1, prevent dry cannabis. If you want to prevent your stash from becoming dry, you need to provide adequate conditions. For instance, if you're having fresh and flavorful cannabis, invest in the best weed stash jars called 8decades jars. You can find them on 8decades.com to protect your buds from humidity, air, and sunlight. I just do that in everybody. So airtight containers such as these stash jars will protect your buds from UV rays and oxygen. In addition, they regulate humidity and which ensure your buds stay fresh and long-lasting. Keep in mind that sunlight and oxygen are necessary for cannabis growth. However, they're harmful when storing your buds. Once your stash is dried, cured, and packaged, you need to limit its exposure to the elements because they can damage your buds. If you're an avid smoker and want to prevent damage to your stash, make sure you use the best methods for storing your weed. How to rehydrate your cannabis. Although proper storage is essential for fresh and potent buds, you may still experience a few that have dried up and were kept outside in too long, or in plastic bag, like I said, or in your drawer, and just didn't know. That's what it really is. I mean, we've learned so much over the years. I mean, back when I was smoking, back in the 90s and late 80s, and when I get my weed, and even all the way up to like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, it was always you got it from your plug, it was always in a plastic bag, or you gave them some, they gave you some kind of like in a plastic whatever container. You never got it in a mason jar. You never got it with humidified packs in it and stuff like that. So the bud did dry. You didn't know. You just kept it in your drawer. You tried to hide it from your parents so your dad wouldn't take it and smoke it on you, like my dad did a few times. So or some people just didn't want to get caught by their parents. One or the other. So you kept it in your sock drawer, in your socks, and you probably put a Bounty. What are those? Dryer sheet in there too to keep the smell going. So there's ways. Mr. Weedman's old. Sorry. So here's a way to hydrate. Fruit peel method. The citrus peel method is one of the most common techniques for rehydrating cannabis buds. Cut off the strip of a peel of a fresh lemon, orange, or citrus fruit. Place it in a glass jar, tightly sealing it. Someone told me about a potato too. Cut a piece of potato, but that's a really moist, and it can overdo. It could overdo your bud too. So just be careful. So start with the citrus peels. Citrus peels are moist and usually do the best job transforming the right amount of moisture into your stash. They might also transfer some of the aroma and flavor to your weed, but depending on your strain, this can be a good thing. You can also do this with an apple, banana, pear, kiwi, cherry, grape, etc., etc. Be sure to remove the peel after a few hours. It's the same thing with a potato. You don't need to keep the potato in there for like days. It's just like an hour. So leaving it any longer runs the risk of introducing mold, mildew to your cannabis. Hot vapor method to rehydrate cannabis. If you're looking for a fast solution, the hot vapor method might be perfect for you. However, keep in mind that you run the risk of cooking your stash or rendering it too saggy to smoke. This method is very simple. You just need to take a large pot, fill it with water, and bring it to a boil. Once the water is boiled, you take the pot off the heat and place it on a safe surface. Cover it with a cloth and ensure you don't burn yourself. Place the stash on top of the cloth and let the evaporation do the work. Turn the buds regular so the vapor can be distributed evenly. After 30 minutes, your buds should be ready to use. I would start with a little bit less than 30 minutes maybe. If you're not really good at it, maybe 10, 15 minutes start and then take it off and see how it is. If you're not, have never done it before, just be careful, okay? I don't want to see you ruin your bud. Humidity packs when keeping your stash. This is what I use. I always have humidity packs in my 8decades jars. When keeping your stash in a fancy cannabis stash box, you can also consider investing in humidity packs to control your RH and not to worry about too much moisture or dryness affecting your cannabis. Don't forget that the relative humidity for cannabis is 55 to 62%. Maintain and restore the RH by purchasing self-regulating disposable humidity packs. The exterior of the packs allows the moisture within to flow out into the air around it. Rehydrate with moist bread. This is the simplest way to rehydrate your stash. Simply moistening a piece of bread, but make sure you don't soak it. Place the bread and dry buds in an airtight container for about 1 to 2 hours to allow the moisture of distribute itself. Check and repeat in the process if necessary. When your buds are sufficiently rehydrated, remove the bread, reseal the lid. Don't forget to store it in a cool, dark place away from the sunlight. If you have a basement or like a crawl space that stays around 65 degrees, I would say like 60 to 65 degrees all year round, money. And with the humidity packs in there, that's where I store mine, and it's money. Final thought. These methods are great solutions for a quick rehydration of your cannabis. However, they're not long-term solutions because the more times you rehydrate your buds, the more susceptible they will be to mold. So don't do this over and over. Do this once, smoke your weed. Even if you're not an everyday smoker and maybe an eighth lasts you a couple months, smoke it. If not, go to grams and just turn and burn it. You know, I'd rather you buy a gram for 20 at a dispensary or 10 from your plug and just smoke that, get that done within a couple weeks and just buy it fresh, you know, so do it that way too. So in addition, make sure you clean the containers between hydration attempts. Invest in weed jars or glass to protect your buds so you can enjoy fresh and flavorful weed for longer. Good stuff. So here's the thing. I gave Mrs. Weedman this article because she's always asking me the question, is it CBD hemp or CBD from cannabis? Is CBD from hemp or CBD is... What's the difference? What's the difference? What's the difference between the two? Mrs. Weedman's going to tell you.
Here we go. What's the difference between CBD from hemp and CBD from cannabis? Well, hemp and cannabis are cousins from the same plant family, Cannabis sativa. Each of them are grown for various purposes, though, and have different features and characteristics. Cannabidiol, CBD, products are everywhere these days, from gel capsules to oils, tinctures, creams, and even CBD products for your pet. There's a CBD product for almost any ailment you can think of: anxiety, insomnia, skincare, and so much more. It isn't surprising, considering the CBD market is responsible for $12.8 billion in sales last year. But when shopping around for CBD products, it is in the best interest of consumers to educate ourselves about the various types of CBD out there. The two sources of CBD are the hemp plant and the cannabis plant. So both of them produce CBD, right? Hemp and cannabis are cousins from the same plant, as we said. Hemp...
Are they kissing cousins?
I don't know. No, they're real cousins.
Real
Kissing
cousins
aren't really related.
Got it.
Hemp is an industrial crop that has extremely low levels of THC, usually under 0.3%. However, it's a rich source of nutrients and CBD. Hemp is widely cultivated for commercial and industrial purposes. The entire hemp plant, including leaves, stalks, buds, and seeds, can be made into several different useful products. Because hemp is a rich source of natural CBD, most of the CBD products made around the world are made from hemp. It also makes it easier to produce large quantities of hemp-derived CBD because the hemp plant has been removed from the Controlled Substance Act back in 2018, thanks to the legalization of the Farm Bill. The act allows hemp to be cultivated legally, then produced into CBD products for the public to consume. Cannabis, on the other hand, cannabis and marijuana are one and the same. Weed, cannabis, whatever. Ganja, it's cannabis. Different than hemp, right? This species of the cannabis sativa plant contains high levels of tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, which is psychoactive and gets you feeling high. It also contains around 500 various compounds, including cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids that contribute to cannabis strains' aroma, effects, and health benefits. Cannabis can contain... my words are getting botched up. Cannabis can contain anywhere from 5 to 30% THC, though it has very low CBD levels. But thanks to recent engineering and breeding, cannabis strains can be made to produce much higher levels of CBD these days. There's also craft cannabis strains that have high CBD content, and they can produce quality CBD products such as oils, tinctures, and edibles. In addition, for consumers who prefer to consume through smoking, you'll have to consume CBD by smoking cannabis in flower form because you can't smoke hemp. So the hemp plant creates bud,
Yeah.
but the bud is CBD. That's all. There's such a small amount of THC in there.
Correct.
The cannabis sativa plant has buds all over the place. If it's a male plant.
Female
plant.
Female
that helps.
plant.
Makes babies.
Yes.
All right. When you compare the molecular structure of CBD made from hemp to that of cannabis, they are exactly the same. However, there are a few differences that consumers should take note of. The legalities. Hemp-made products, CBD included, are legal all throughout the United States. Okay, so if it's made from hemp, if it's grown, it can be sold anywhere. Well, and you can transport hemp-derived CBD across state borders, and companies can cultivate and manufacture CBD products without having to worry about any legal implications. I will say, though, we met a hemp farmer, and he said it is very, very regulated. Like, they come out to check your crops and make sure that you are not growing something over 0.3% THC.
Right.
Okay, so there are qualifying standards to make it a hemp plant, and it is controlled, but legal.
They were supposed to
legal.
raise that limit too to
Yeah,
point,
thought so.
0.5% too.
But with CBD oil made from cannabis, it's up to each state to define whether or not it's illegal. In the eyes of the federal government, though, CBD oil made from cannabis is still a marijuana product, and if you're caught traveling or crossing state lines with it, there may be some serious legal implications. Since CBD oil and products made from hemp plant have extremely low traces of THC, consumers can expect to feel little or no high at all. In fact, you would have to consume a ridiculously high amount of CBD oil with trace amounts of THC to get high. It would just make no sense at all, because if psychoactive effects are the priority, you should be consuming THC products and not CBD. Hemp doesn't boast a cannabinoid profile nearly as rich as cannabis. Since cannabinoids also have a myriad of numerous health benefits, you will only be able to enjoy them if you consume cannabis-derived CBD. But CBD from hemp is rich in vitamins and fatty acids, which make it suitable for treating disorders related to the skin and inflammation,
Wonderful.
as well as overall health and well-being. Many medicinal patients who use CBD to treat conditions benefit from consuming cannabis-derived CBD. Its therapeutic benefits are simply more powerful thanks to the entourage effect, working on all the cannabinoids and terpenes present. CBD oils and other CBD products made from cannabis can only legally be purchased in licensed dispensaries in states that have legalized cannabis. On the other hand, you can easily buy hemp-derived CBD almost anywhere. So that's very important. If you are really looking for the medical benefits of CBD, get your CBD at a dispensary from a THC, from a cannabis sativa plant. So you're going to get a high ratio CBD with a very low ratio THC. You're not going to feel psychoactive high, but you're going to get added benefits of terpenes and cannabinoids.
I have something even better.
What?
Find a local
An equal?
farmer.
Yeah.
Go talk to him. This is local.
But we're talking about the cannabis sativa. You can't legally
I was
grow.
talking about. I thought you were talking
I
about
think
hemp
we lost
still.
you for a
I thought you
second.
were talking about hemp still.
No, I'm saying
Oh.
if you want to use a CBD product, how much added benefit there is
Yes,
in buying
yes.
it from a dispensary
Yes.
because it's THC based.
Oh,
right?
yeah, got you.
Right.
The ratio.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I think
I'm sorry.
you got
but
lost then.
I did because I was thinking when you.
Mr. Weedman's lost in the sauce.
I did get lost in the sauce. When you said CBD, I was thinking we know there's local farmers you can go buy CBD from, right? And you know where
Yeah,
that
it's not
plant
to
comes
say
from.
that regular hemp-based CBD is bad. You just don't have all of the added benefits of the terpenes and cannabinoids.
Right.
Right? Okay. If you want to start supplementing with cannabis-sourced CBD for general health, here's what you should look for: a certificate of analysis, or a COA. The COA provides you with insight on the other ingredients or compounds used in the plant. Legitimate COAs should tell you about the cannabinoid analysis, heavy metals, if any, and pesticides. Stay away from products that only tell you the cannabinoids present because they may not be transparent with you. So this might be a little confusing. Why am I talking about cannabinoids with a hemp-based CBD? Well, there's still a cannabinoid profile. They're just going to be minimal. They're just going to be really low concentrates of that, okay? Some COAs also include detailed information on terpenes, residual solvents, and mycotoxins. Ideally, you want to be consuming organic and non-GMO cannabis and CBD products. This can give you peace of mind that you're taking in clean ingredients that are free from pesticides and other chemicals that can be detrimental to your health. Many hemp and cannabis products are genetically modified, but several CBD brands out there claim to be non-GMO, yet they don't have proper verification. Always research the brand to find out more information on their hemp plants. Depending on the type of CBD oil or product you're consuming, some manufacturers may have added other ingredients to make it more palatable. CBD oils are usually mixed with carrier oils such as MCT, coconut, olive, sunflower, or almond oil. With all of these options, you can easily choose which one is best for your needs. Remember, not all products are created equally, so do your research to be sure you're consuming high-quality CBD.
Do you understand it better now?
I do. Good. I'll probably ask you about it again later. But it makes sense.
Yes. You've heard us talk about pheno-hunting in the past. I've had Big Earl on, and we've talked about it too. But there's some more information just so we all know what pheno-hunting is. So what is cannabis pheno-hunting? If you've ever been interested in cannabis breeding, you've probably heard the term pheno-hunt thrown around. At its most basic, a pheno-hunt is the process of selecting the best individual plant or plants out of the pack of seeds. In a pheno-hunt, you basically take the batch of seeds from the same parents, grow them all out, eliminate any males, and flower the females. As the female plants grow and produce buds, you take note of the qualities of each plant. Then select one or more individuals that produce the best cannabis. You then take those plants and create mothers to produce clones. Pheno-hunting explained. To put it another way, in a pheno-hunt, you are rejecting and eliminating all the plants grown from across that do not match up to your specific goal. All the female plants in a pheno-hunt are ultimately in the competition against one another. If your goal is to produce a loud and gassy strain, you would grow a bunch of seeds and eliminate all the plants that didn't have a gassy aroma. Once you've identified the ones that do produce the pungent fooly scent, you would carefully compare them to the one that is the strongest. This is to be your best choice or the keeper. The keeper. The keeper. Phenotype. Phenotype definition. What the hell is a phenotype anyway? It's a term for the individual characteristics that are expressed from an organism. DNA. In the cannabis industry, it's simple what a plant looks, smells, tastes, and grows like. The qualities of the plant that make it different from others. When breeders talk about phenotypes, or pheno for short, they usually mean a group with the population that exhibits a certain trait. In the cannabis industry, it's common to see different phenotypes of the same strain. An example is the purple pheno of Bubba Kush, which is different from the green pheno. Phenotype genetics example. Think about a litter of puppies. Let's say a yellow lab and a black lab mate and have puppies. Some of the puppies are black, the black phenotype. Some are yellow, the yellow phenotype. And some are a mix of the two, the brown pheno. In the cannabis space, a phenotype can also be just an individual plant, usually DEMARCATED. I'm a little baked. Sorry. By a number. An example of this is the Gorilla Glue phenotypes out there like Gorilla Glue number 4 and Gorilla Glue number 5. They all have the same parents. Essentially, they are sisters, all similar in ways, but with their own individual characteristics that set them apart. More of what the numbers mean and why they are used later. First, let's talk pheno-hunting. In search of the keeper. The best way to have a successful pheno-hunt is to have a specific goal in mind before you even get started. This will give you the direction to follow in the terms of planning. A common example of pheno-hunting goal is to find the most flavorful, potent individual from a batch of seeds. If this is your goal, you know you will need to grow out as many seeds as you have room for. Find all the females from the batch, give them a label, each female with a phenotype number 1, 2 tree, to determine one from the other, and then flower them. You need to assess if you have enough room to keep clones, aka cuttings. This is the reason why I haven't started cloning yet, because I have no room. One day I will. Of all of these plants, or if you are going to risk trying to revegetate your keeper phenotype, since your goal is to find the tastiest, most potent plant, you won't know which one is your keeper until you flower, harvest, then properly cure and test each phenotype. You will need room to keep all these cuttings or re-vegged plants in a vegetative state until the keeper can be determined. If it sounds like this is going to take lots of space and time to do, you are damn right. The second thing to consider after your goal is to how much space and time you have to dedicate to this project. True pheno-hunting isn't for get-rich-quick types. You need a lot of patience, attention to detail, solid work ethic, and organization. We can talk to Big Earl about this very soon. It's important to note the more space and time you have, the better the overall results will be. Pheno-hunting is a numbers and probability game. The best female picked out of 1,000 other females is going to be way better than one picked out of a batch of 10. If you have space to go big for pheno-hunt or grow 1,000 female plants in, say, a warehouse, your results will be exponentially better than someone growing 10 plants in their basement. Whether you grow 10 plants or 1,000, good labeling and organization is going to be one of the most important factors determining pheno-hunting success. Countless heady strains have been lost or accidentally replaced due to bad labeling. Oh, I'd be mad. Most growers adopt the number 1, 2, 3 plant labeling system, which are individual plants get its own number to track it through the growing process. This is important for keeping track of what is and when it comes time to make selections. It's highly recommended to keep a journal during your pheno hunt so you can then document the progression of each phenotype as the flower, taking good notes on how fast flowers appear and mature, nutrient and water uptake, as well as pest resistance are all important when making later selections. So, good article. I like reading about pheno-hunting only because I learn more and more every time I talk about it. So, and I research about it. So, damn, I'm high. I wonder what it feels like.
Well, that's kind of the question of every new smoker, right? What does it really feel like? And so back to that little road trip I just had for the concert, we started talking about, I don't know how we got on the subject of shrooms, but we started talking about shrooms, and all three of us in the car were like, oh, I've never done them. But of course, our curiosity is a little piqued, and we talked about how they're using it now for like research. They're doing a lot of research on microdosing mushrooms for depression and mental health. So we were all saying how it seems so intriguing, but what stops us is what does it feel like, right? So you have to think there's a lot of people who have never consumed cannabis, or they did so long ago and maybe didn't have a good experience, and they just don't know what to expect. And we always talk about how it's a learning process, and you have to learn how it feels for you, right?
Just like we always say with edibles.
Right, just like
with shrooms, start low and go very slow, like even more slower than cannabis.
Right. But but with cannabis too, it's a start low and slow and get used to it and learn it.
Endocannabinoid system's got to wake up, right?
So what does it feel like to be high? This article is a perspective on that. Whether you're new to the world of weed or a seasoned toker, you might be curious about how people feel when they're high on cannabis. Here's what science says about how it feels to be high on weed and the factors that affect a high. We'll also hear from cannabis consumers of different ages and experience levels about how they feel when they're high. Many clinical studies on the effects of cannabis begin by acknowledging that it results in relaxation, loss of inhibition, euphoria, altered perceptions, and sleepiness. On the other hand, it can also lead to paranoia, dizziness, insomnia, nausea, dry mouth, fear, and hallucinations. I like to think of getting high in two components, your mood and your abilities, said Dr. Addie Ray, a neuroscientist and scientific advisor to Weed Maps. Cannabis is well known to cause positive changes in mood. This is typically called euphoria. There's a huge range of positive mood, from a subtle sense of ease all the way up to a full-blown joy and elation. Where you'll fall on the spectrum depends a lot on your baseline mood state, the product you use, and the composition of your endocannabinoid system, explained Ray. Joy and elation are possible outcomes of ingestion of THC, but some people feel a heightened urge to paint, write, play music, and otherwise express themselves. Or they may choose to read and engage in deep, thoughtful conversations. Marijuana use can cause a change in perspective or a thought process that some say make them more creatively inclined. It would be oversimplifying to say that cannabis makes you more creative, but at the right dose and in the right person, creativity could be one possible outcome of the changes in brain activity, Ray told Weed Maps. Clearly, what it feels like to be high is a subjective experience that's different for everyone. How you feel when you're high also depends on a multitude of external factors. But does being high always feel good? There is a dose window for positive mood, and if you use too much for your level of tolerance, you can overshoot this window and end up feeling anxious or paranoid, Ray said. To decrease the likelihood of experiencing a bad trip and feeling anxious or paranoid, increasing your dosage in small increments to understand your tolerance level is best. It's also best to test the weed's water with small doses of a low-dose THC product. Once you know how that makes you feel, you can increase as needed. In addition to altering your mood and perception, cannabis can also affect your ability to function, remember things, reason, and feel inhibition. A study published in a 2018 journal, The Behavioral Pharmacology, found that cannabis decreased inhibition, particularly in doses high in THC, but had a less concrete effect on memory and reasoning. As Ray points out, you may be forgetful, have trouble keeping up in a conversation, or following a plot of a movie. And of course, you may not have all the physical abilities required to safely drive your car. Your reaction time will slow, and your sense of time will get out of whack. The science is clear on THC being the primary psychoactive component of cannabis, and therefore the main factor in the strength and duration of feeling high. But terpenes may also play a role in the marijuana high experience. According to a 2018 study published in the European Journal of Medical Chemistry, there are many studies where terpenes have been shown to ease pain, anxiety, and depression, which could account for part of the euphoria that many people associate with being high. At the end of the day, each individual will have a unique experience with cannabis. No matter how we try to quantify or describe the mood state, thinking state, or psychological effects of cannabis, these phenomena are often indescribable. They can only be felt by the person getting high, Ray asserted. Weed Maps spoke with a trio of people across the country to understand how they feel when they're high on cannabis, and here's what they had to say. This is Ryan. He's 24 from Boulder, Colorado. I'm a social stoner, meaning I only get high around other people, which was hard when COVID hit. Before COVID, I would light up a bong with friends and just really feel happy, like everything and everyone was in harmony. This one comes from Harold, age 58, from Fort Myers, Florida. I've been smoking weed since I was 17. Now I've got a medical card. My tolerance is pretty high at this point, but I still love that spacey chill feeling I get when I light up a joint. Sweet oblivion. And we have Tatiana. She is 39 from Savannah, Georgia. I don't know. I didn't like how I felt the one time I tried edibles. I had a small cookie, a small brownie, and felt more stoned than high, like I was in a stupor. But at the same time, my heart was beating so fast, I felt panicked. Not good. Plus, it lasted through the night, and I woke up with a pounding headache. Some cannabis consumption methods may have stronger and longer effects than others. Edibles, for example, may be more potent and long-lasting in their effects than vaping or smoking, but experiences will vary among consumers. Getting the right dose for your body is crucial. This includes an appropriate ratio of CBD to THC so that the cannabinoids can work in tandem through the entourage effect. CBD and THC are the two main cannabinoids in cannabis, but more than 100 have been isolated in the plant. CBN, CBG, THCV are just a few of the other cannabinoids that could influence your experience. THCV may have the potential to decrease the negative side effects of THC, like anxiety, said Ray. Potency depends on how much of a certain cannabinoid is present and how that cannabinoid is delivered, whether by smoking, eating, or vaping. Cannabis containing high levels of THC is more potent and can produce a very intense high. There are no human studies on terpenes' role in consumers feeling high. There is evidence of the anti-anxiety effects of several terpenes commonly found in cannabis, though. Another terpene common in cannabis, pinene, shows promise as a schizophrenia treatment. Consumers have countless weed strains from which to choose, and some are famous for certain effects. Known for its heady and euphoric high, OG Kush is a perennial favorite. Other strains, such as Jack Herer, have been reported to help consumers focus and be productive. All other factors aside, your personal tolerance level may be the most critical component to how you feel when you're high. If you're new to cannabis, assume that your tolerance level is low and start with less potent strains and lower dosages. Bottom line, weed produces different effects for everyone. The key to finding the right product is to experiment cautiously. Start with low dose and observe how different cannabinoid strains and consumption methods make you feel. Become familiar with your tolerance, and the weed world will open up for you to explore.
It's a whole new world.
It is.
So that new bill that Chuck Schumer, Ron Wyden, and Cory Booker have been saying that was going to get on the table, it was filed, Federal Legalization, Social Equity Bill, the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act. I am not such a fan of either bills, one that's in the House and this one in the Senate. There's some good things in both, but the rest is just about all garbage. So this is my opinion. But here's some stuff that this bill talks of impending releases started swirling and introduced before Congress, and it will be in August, and Senator Schumer delayed its original filing in April. So now that it's been officially introduced, the bill must move through the legislative process before it becomes law, and it still has to get to Biden's desk. The CAOA is hundreds of pages long. It's filled with information, and a lot of people can't even fucking read it. Here are the major points that you need to know about this bill. Cannabis must be removed from the Controlled Substance Act within 180 days of the bill passing. We'll see if that happens. People with the low-level federal cannabis convictions will have the records expunged with 1 year of the COA going into effect. Those currently in prison for cannabis will be allowed to petition the courts for relief. They don't even get let out of jail. They have to petition for relief. Small to mid-sized cannabis producers will be taxed 5% more excise tax. This number would slowly increase to 12.5% 5 years later. Holy shit. So on top of what you're paying in the States right now, what you're getting it in the pooper, you're going to be up to 12.5%. So more and more people are not going to buy legalized cannabis. They're going to stick with the traditional market. So you failed. Large businesses would start at 10% and increase to a maximum of 25%. So all your big MSOs out there that are like the big top dogs are going to be paying up to 25%. Heavily taxing cannabis producers doesn't stop after federal legalization, apparently. It would create a regulatory framework, one in which the FDA Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, it would go to the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau are heavily involved. This bill would overnight change everything we know about the cannabis industry. Yeah, it would. And maybe not all in the right way. But states would still be allowed to opt out of the cannabis sales. They can't stop the transportation of cannabis products from passing through their jurisdiction. But those caught distributing cannabis in an illegal state can still face federal penalties. So, if you're driving through a state and you're coming from California with 500 pounds of legal cannabis and you pass through Nebraska, I don't care what they say. If those cops pull you over, that weed ain't going out of that state. So I don't care what the federal law says. The Department of Transportation would also be responsible for determining a THC impaired driving standard within 3 years of the bill becoming law. States would be required to adopt it unless it's determined that the department is unable to set the standards from a specific perspective. The National Highway Traffic Administration would collect data on impaired driving and promote awareness of its dangers. That's just some stuff you need to know of that very long, crazy bill that they wrote. Again, here's something cool. Illinois, J.B. Pritzker cheered regulators issuing 149 new cannabis dispensary licenses to the social equity applicants. Those 185 licenses are now able to go. That other judge said, this law, what you guys were trying to sue for, it's tough. So probably start seeing Illinois have these open by the end of the year going into next year. So Let's see. House passes legalization permitting legalized cannabis in advertising. This year's Super Bowl is going to be very interesting. That's for sure. Minnesota, some of the cities in Minnesota are banning the new edible law. New York bans smoking in parks, beaches, playgrounds, and other public spaces. So that's where you won't be able to smoke freely, but everywhere else you can. The 2022 halftime cannabis report and how the industry is doing and where it's going. You've seen hills and valleys, in a lot of different states. Some states are doing very well still. Some states are doing poorly. Some of the older markets are doing poorly. Some of the reports, where we're at, wholesale prices are down double digits. And in a lot of the states, the illicit market is running rampant. Increased competition is driving price compression out of control. Discontinuing among retailers and brands, reducing profits even further. I said this last time. We talked a while ago about running sales. Price compression, dropping price down. Everybody's on the race to the bottom. No one makes any money. You're going to see businesses get bought out, businesses fold. So everybody that put their heart and soul in the cannabis industry is not going to get fucked. And watch when it goes federally legal too. It's going to be about 4 or 5 companies just running it all if we don't stay strong, cannabis community. It is still growing. There's a lot of states, new states opening up, so you're going to see some growth in those states. But the older states, we're in a downswing. So high tax rates pushes many consumers away from the regulated market to illicit dealers or traditional market where products are guaranteed to be to not be tested and maybe not be safe. So falling where wholesale prices and increased competition force discounting and flatten margins. The lack of federal legislative action on banking issues continues to weigh the industry down also. Price wars have driven down revenue. Social equity efforts in a lot of states have stalled. Federal policy, we'll see. But all is not lost. Despite the industry current ongoing challenges, growing pains should be considered as a natural lifestyle. It is a new industry in a lot of states, so you're going to have the hills and valleys and bumps and bruises along the way. Just stay strong and try to not bastardize your brand. Try not to get people confused. Try to get people to buy a good quality product that they can trust, and they'll buy your brand. So, we'll see what happens the rest of the year. Hopefully we stay strong, cannabis community. There's a lot of waste in the cannabis industry, though.
Yeah, there's
a lot of plastic waste and stuff like that. Tell us what the USA and Canada, what's the problem? What's the problem, yo?
Yep. Since cannabis became legal in Canada, sustainability still leaves room for improvement, mitigating the millions of pounds of plastic packaging that legal marijuana produces every year. According to a report by Leafly in 2018, the first year of cannabis legalization in Canada, solid black plastic containers were the most visible containers on the market. Additionally, several brands had opted to package their cannabis products in fancy-looking but non-recyclable packaging. Also, jars, which are common for selling flour, take decades to decompose, which pumps toxins into the soil and eventually make their way into the nearest oceans. It is difficult to quantify the plastic waste problem, but the overall impact has been negative. In 2019, the environmental company Rewaste estimated that between 12.7 and 14.1 million pounds of plastic from cannabis packaging alone ended up in landfills between October of 18 and August of 19. Not even a full year. Plastic waste and the cannabis industry tend to go hand in hand, but our specialized process works to mitigate the impact of plastic waste on the environment, Rewaste said on its website. In the meantime, cannabis sales and the variety of products available have only increased. A CBC report found that for every gram of cannabis sold legally, up to 70 grams of plastic waste is generated. That's pretty bad. It's really shameful, said Remy Robichaud of Moncton, Canada. Being a coastal province, they should do something about the amount of plastic that goes into our oceans. So what are the sustainable measures taken in the U.S. cannabis market? Cannabis packaging waste is an issue that involves the entire industry, extending from regulators and producers to consumers. However, industry-wide efforts to promote the implementation of the use of recycled materials and encourage consumers to recycle packaging are visible. As an example, Vermont's Cannabis Control Board recently released its guidance on packaging to reduce the amount of plastic waste being generated by the industry in the state. According to the guidance, packaging intended for consumers purchased at retail locations needs to be reusable and not plastic. All packaging should be capable of repeated recovery, sanitation, and reissue into the supply chain for repeated use. Examples of reusable non-plastic packaging materials mentioned in the document include glass, tin, cardboard, and bamboo. So keep an eye on innovations in that, and I would say give feedback to your dispensaries that you're tired of all the waste. Like, I don't want to call out a brand or this or that, but I'm sitting here looking at products that we have in front of us, and it's just, it's beautiful packaging. They spend a lot of money on the graphics and the labels, but the actual quality of the plastic and glass that's used is heavy. And you're putting 2 little buds in a glass jar. It's great, and it's good for the weed, but it's not great for our environment. So they really do have to come up with some ways.
Biodegradable.
I mean, why don't I guess I know the answer to this, but why couldn't all the bud be just loose like a butcher shop, right? And you bring in your own jar and they fill it.
Because
it's
state
contamination.
Well, here's the other thing too. You go to Michigan, they do deli style, but
right.
they have to put in their own plastic container because then they have to print it out the ID of the product you're buying and then put it around the plastic. So you'd have to do that every time on a jar.
It's just time and cost.
So I don't know. We got to figure out something.
I'm sure someone
biodegradable
smart is
hemp,
out there
where water touches it, it disintegrates. Once you're done using it. Mm-hmm. That's it. It just disintegrates into nothing.
Yeah. Like a takeout container.
There it is.
And you bring it home and put it in your good container at home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. International news. France re-enters medical cannabis industry after more than half a century hiatus. Wow, that's crazy. In Canada, in May, sales were 376 million. Sales grow very slightly in May. Cannabis market in Thailand seen growing to 1.2 billion by 2025, and they're going fucking crazy in Thailand, like where the government didn't realize what they opened up. A can of everybody just fucking free for all and cannabis everywhere. They're like trying to ban it like in certain things now. Like they opened it up and now they're going gangbusters. Everything I've been reading about. So go Thailand. Don't fuck it up. Government, just let the people make some money. 1.2 billion by 2025. Let the people win on this one. Let them win, Thailand. What's the capital of Thailand?
Bangkok.
There you go.
I know now.
Yes, you do. Indonesian court rejects call to legalize medicinal cannabis. Come on, Indonesia. Let's go. Italy could allow home cultivation up to 4 cannabis plants by the end of the year. I'd move to Italy if I knew I can grow weed. This was crazy. There was a cannabis farm. Their grow lights turned the sky over some small Australian town bright pink. Residents of a small Australian town were terrified and dumbfounded earlier this week when they saw a mysterious pink glow appear in the sky. Fears of an alien invasion or nuclear meltdown crossed some locals' minds, but it turned out to be a glow was actually emanating from a secret medical cannabis facility. It's not any secret anymore. The eerie glow appeared over the clouds over Mildura, a town in the northern part of Victoria. This Wednesday evening, local residents of Alexandra Talent and her family first noticed the glow while feeding their horses that evening. The kids' imaginations went wild, and of course, the topic of aliens was presented. My husband and I were a bit optimistic. It was bizarre. She said, another Mildura resident who saw the unusual glow, I was on the phone with my mom, and my dad was saying the world was ending. Overall, the reaction was more puzzled than frightened, and many residents chose to take advantage of a unique photo opportunity. I pinched my wife's phone and took a couple of pictures, said Andrew, resident of nearby Red Cliffs. It was around 6:30 when I saw it and thought it may be some kind of deflection at first. It was pretty strange. Someone said it looks like it was like an episode from Stranger Things also. So that's pretty cool. Australia got some really good news on that. I mean, that must have looked really dope. I wish I was high looking at that. So... hemp-based food.
Yeah.
Taking over the world or what?
I have a little drinking problem here. I was trying to get a sip of water before I talk, and I just spilled it down over my face.
Remember the movie Airplane?
Yeah. What did they do?
The Striker. Every time he'd go to have a drink, it would spill all down his lap.
Wouldn't there be like turbulence on the airplane?
Not even just turbulence. Anytime he picked up a drink, because he was a fighter pilot in the war, and he had back then we didn't call it PTSD, but that's what he probably was basing it on. And all of a sudden, he would take a sip and it would just always spill down his face and all over his shirt. And he'd look up and be like, "I have a drinking problem." That was his drinking problem.
That's funny.
All
right.
So tell us
So,
about some
will hemp-
plant food.
Will hemp take over the plant-based food market? Meat alternatives are on the rise globally. Could hemp take the lead as cannabis reform drives agricultural production? Meat consumption is rising globally, starting with the U.S. The American market alone is worth about $270 billion annually, out of a market worth about $1.5 trillion globally. Unfortunately, this is also growth which is increasingly unsustainable from the climate change perspective. Forget the moral issues involved. Did you know that cow farts are the top agricultural source of greenhouse gases?
Methane gas, baby.
Each cow emits about 220 pounds of farts, or methane, annually. As a result, reducing methane emissions via transitioning the planet to animal protein-free alternatives is also seen as the biggest opportunity to slow global heating in a relatively short 20 years or so. Given that this single source also creates about 1/3 of the human-caused methane emissions, this is a significant issue. Particularly, how many fart pounds do we? Look that up, Mr. Weedman.
A lot of farts.
How much methane does the human give out?
Not as
per
much
year?
as a cow.
Not 220 pounds. Given that this is the single source that also creates about 1/3 of the human-caused methane emissions, this is a significant issue, particularly as other environmental efforts to halt the impending climate emergency, such as switching to solar and other fossil fuel-free energy sources, are still so politically problematic. In Germany, where recreational cannabis reform is now in the works, the topic is getting serious attention, not to mention some funding. For example, the University of Hohenheim was given a €1 million grant last year from the regional government to study how hemp could replace protein-rich foods, from schnitzel to tofu and pasta. No matter its crunchy reputation, the animal-free protein sector is also a highly significant market. 40% of the meat substitutes currently produced globally are sold across Europe. This is one of the reasons that they have actually moved ahead fairly quickly on the aspect of cannabis reform. This market is also expected to reach about $28 billion globally by 2025. That is good news for early adopters who are making the switch to vegan alternatives for health and environmental reasons. Forget the economic incentives. The more mainstream, the faster, broader adoption will be. This is good news, too. The more that animal slaughter can be reduced, so can the breeding of animals for this purpose. There are many wondrous aspects of the cannabis plant. One of them is that hemp seeds are a superfood, full of vitamins and other nutrients. Beyond this, the seeds of the hemp plant can contain as much as 25% protein, making them similar to egg whites. The seeds also contain all essential amino acids, and they are easy to digest. The end result creates a chewy, meat-like texture that is highly satisfying to consumers. Not every hemp variety, at least according to German research during the study so far, creates the desired results. The scientists involved in this investigation are currently growing 20 varieties of hemp in test plots. The idea is to create an extensive supply chain throughout Europe, while also increasing local food self-sufficiency of Baden-Württemberg, located in the southwest corner of the country and bordering France and Switzerland. It is a part of the world known for a few globally recognized symbols, including the Black Forest, plus Porsche and Mercedes-Benz headquarters. This is, however, just one example of the coming hemp-based protein replacement craze. The entrepreneurial endeavors necessary to drive the market demand beyond the lab are by now scattered all over Europe. In Estonia, one firm has even gotten rather catchy, naming their product Crump. It probably tastes like chicken, even though it's designed to be a protein crumble, designed to replace ground beef. Beyond Europe, the trend is clearly global. A firm called Leafed Foot Foods in New Zealand received $15 million in financing this spring to grow its line of products that included not only beef, but other animal-based protein substitutes. So can cannabis actually help heal the planet? There is no one answer for global warming or environmental disasters caused by industries of the Industrial Revolution in the 20th century. However, the much maligned cannabis plant appears to hold many answers, from helping detoxify areas of land blighted by gold mining to reducing the first world's dependence on animal protein. And of course, beyond this, the medical efficacy of the plant, cannabis, is starting what many assume will be a global ascendancy into the next decade.
That was some hard words.
It's not hard to understand why, though. The mandate for trying to keep a limit on global warming is evident, even this summer, as multiple countries struggle politically in a world with much more expensive fossil fuels. Cannabis reform is creating a different narrative around such issues, from energy to meat substitutes and beyond into medicine. One thing is for sure. If there was a plant with the power to significantly fix the world, it would be called good old cannabis sativa.
Nice. Those are some hard words.
I think that would be probably pretty tasty.
I would try it. Sure.
Yeah.
O-Dog, who's vegetarian.
Yeah. Our kids are like vegetarian just for these types of reasons, for the environment, and it's not for dietary or like a medical reason. It's just a choice. So they'll eat meat from time to time, very rarely.
Mostly, the one protein they eat probably the most is eggs.
Yeah.
But that's really about it.
Yeah.
But I did find this out.
What?
The raw mass of a fart weighs 0.0375 grams, and the average person produces 0.6 to 1.8 liters of farts each day.
Whoa. So what does that equate to in pounds?
I don't know.
We're going to have to do some more research. I'm curious.
Good on that.
I probably won't do research on it either.
No, but it's an interesting know that how much a fart weighs and how much comes out of an average person a day compared to a cow. 200. What'd you say? 200 pounds.
220 pounds a year.
A year.
That's a lot of. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
I mean,
of
it's
gas.
air. I mean, air doesn't even weigh anything.
No,
like
it's gas.
Right.
It's methane gas. Woo. That's a lot.
They got gassy ass.
Oh my god. That strain was good. Bedford Growth. Thank you for being a part of the 2022 High Times Cannabis Cup. I'm glad I got to smoke that strain. It was really nice. I'm gonna smoke some more because the high is starting to go away. Everybody out there in the world, thank you so much for listening. Mrs. Weedman, do you got anything else to say?
I got nothing.
Nothing? Well, everybody out there in the world, we love you. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you're having a great summer so far. I can't believe it's August already. I'm going to be August in a couple of days. Oh, gosh. Summertime, so much fun, but it goes by so quick, everybody. Enjoy it while it lasts. Have a great one, everybody out there in the world. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.